Happy Monday, and welcome to this week's Wicked Wisdoms. Now, we're kicking off a new series all about the musical and the movie Wicked. And just as a heads up, it has spoiler alerts for Wicked Part 1 and Wicked for Good. So if you haven't seen the movie and you're planning on seeing the movie, then maybe hold off until you do. Now, today's episode lays the foundation for everything that is to come over the next few weeks. So let's start with the character that is at the center of it all, Elphaba. Now, when I first watched Wicked Part 1, it struck me that Elphaba is autistic, or at least she represents someone with strong autistic traits. And while the story makes a big deal about her green skin and setting her apart, even without it, she would still be othered. And the question is, why? Well, part of it is because she communicates, processes, and shows up in ways that don't fit the mold. So let's take a look at some of these examples. In Wicked Part 1, when Elphaba first arrives, she steps off the boat. There is no small talk. There's no softening. There's no warm-up. She steps off and goes straight to the point. She's direct.
No, I am not seasick. No, I did not eat grass as a child.
She walks into that moment like, here we are, let's do this. And her facial expressions, they give away everything that she's thinking. They're very transparent, especially when compared to her counterpart, Galinda. Now you can see exactly what she's feeling on her face. And then let's talk about sensory overwhelm. Remember that moment in the library, that big moment where Fiyero comes, everyone's singing, dancing, and having a wonderful time? Except for Elphaba. It's too much. She tells her sister, Nessa Rose, I have to get out of here. She doesn't mask it. She doesn't pretend she's fine. She removes herself from the situation. That is a real and very relatable neurodivergent moment. Now, fast forward a little bit, and Elphaba and Galinda become friends. Elphaba is loyal. She accepts Galinda completely, quirks and all. But then we flip the lens. Galinda has a whole entourage of people. Elphaba, she just has Galinda. And even though she's now connected to the popular crowd, she still isn't popular. At the train station, people are cheering for Galinda while Elphaba is off to the side, alone. And then she meets the wizard. And in that moment, she sacrifices her biggest dream for the greater good. Strong sense of justice, anyone? And when she discovers the truth about what the wizard and Madame Morrible have been doing, she doesn't stay quiet. She acts. Because that whole story about the animals being a threat, it's a lie, and she knows it. It's a convenient one, and she refuses to play along. Now, let's go back to Galinda. Galinda is everything society labels as good. She's blonde, pretty, sweet, polished. She looks the part, she acts the part. And this matters. We're dealing with the halo effect. Now, the halo effect is where someone's outward appearance or charm gives them the benefit of the doubt in every other area. Meanwhile, Elphaba, because she doesn't fit that mold, is judged more harshly. This is called the horn effect. It's the same situation, but different rules. And this happens in real life, too. Think about the Sabrina Carpenter concert controversy. Parents sent their kids expecting a wholesome show because of how they looked. Now, it turns out that image and reality didn't match, but people only notice after the fact. And back in Oz, Glinda always has the right facial expressions, always knows what people want to see. She performs the part of the good girl flawlessly because she's learned the rules, the unspoken rules that all societies have. And this is where respectability politics comes in. It's the idea that if you behave, speak, and look a certain way, that you'll be accepted. You'll be rewarded. Glinda fits the mold, and she benefits from this. Elphaba breaks the mold just by existing and pays the price. Those in marginalized communities are very familiar with this concept. And here's where it gets visual. Director John Chu and Cynthia Erivo made intentional choices. Elphaba's styling, the micro braids, the long nails, the natural hair. It draws on African and African American aesthetics. But why does that matter? Because in our society, those traits have often been villainized. Natural hair, bold nails, directness, even just taking up space when you don't fit the narrative of the majority. They're not wrong, but they've been labeled that way through a lens of conformity. And that brings us to conformity bias. It's what happens when people, especially people in groups, reward sameness and reject what's unfamiliar. Not because it's bad, but because it's different. Neither Glinda nor Elphaba is doing anything wrong. They're both moving through the world, but the stories that people are telling about them is influencing whether they have the halo or the horn. Those stories decide who gets to be the hero and who becomes the villain. Now, as a leader, this needs to give us pause because we do this in the workplace too. We meet someone who's direct, blunt, skeptical, or who pushes back, and we say, they're difficult. They're not a team player.
They've got a bad attitude.
Oh, I hate when team player gets weaponized. But what's really happening? We're telling ourselves a story about them, one where they're the problem, and when we have power, those stories carry weight. They shape evaluations and promotions, opportunities, someone's career, their livelihood, and ultimately their life. So here's your leadership challenge. Next time someone shows up differently than you expect, pause and ask, what story am I telling about this person? Am I creating a villain? Or is this just someone moving through the world differently than I would? Because difference is not danger. In leadership, it requires curiosity, not control. So that's it for today's Wicked Wisdom. Next week, we'll explore how the stories that we tell shape our ideas of good and evil, especially when it comes to the wizard. Until then, don't forget, as always, you got this. I'll see you next week.